Hey everybody, Sujin Patel here of Mailshake. We got another sales expert. I got Ash Alhashim from BFG Consulting. Ash, thank you for joining us. I'm excited to talk to you. It's been a few years. You've done lots of amazing things. So yeah, why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here. So my name's Ash. I'm a sales leader with BFG Consulting, as Sujin mentioned. I've been in the sales world for about 13 years. Last 7 or so years, I've been in primarily sales leadership roles for companies like Optimizely, SIFT, formerly SIFT Science, and Scaled Inference. Last little bit, I've been focused on helping businesses, kind of early stage B2B technology startups, get up and running, building and scaling their go-to-market teams, and have had a lot of fun doing that, primarily focused in the marketing technology space, and help companies, particularly technical founders, think through how to go to market in repeatable, predictable, sustainable ways.
Awesome. Thanks for that intro. So today we're going to talk about how to define your ICP, right, in a smart way. And before we jump into that, I can't say enough about hiring folks like Ash. If you're a founder, you're getting maybe, you've gotten kind of the initial traction, or you're just getting started and you know there's going to be sales involved, hiring a consultant, hiring outside help before hiring employees and building up the whole team, I found to be so helpful if your background's not in sales. So Ash, like, you've done the VP of sales role, you've built out teams. So very, very important to kind of consider or talk to people like that so you don't fuck up your stuff. It's so easy to like do the wrong things or take longer to do the same things.
Exactly.
So, go hire Ash is pretty much what I'm saying. All right. Now that advertisement's done, let's talk about ICP. So like, why would we even why identify an ICP? What's the purpose here?
Yeah, so I think an ICP is really not only critical, is almost an understatement for how important ICP really is. And it's funny, B2C companies, particularly web first, digital first B2C companies, have really figured this out over the last decade or so, that they need to be customer obsessed. Everything revolves around the customer. And it's funny, B2B companies are just really starting to figure that out now. So if you take a look at my website and a lot of the literature that's out there right now in kind of the sales blogosphere, there's a lot of content around kind of moving to this more of a flywheel model for thinking about how you acquire and retain and grow your customer base. HubSpot's done a tremendous job popularizing some of the ideas there, kind of replacing the funnel out with the flywheel. And really just kind of the customer being at the center of everything is just starting to take hold in the B2B world. And I think aside from being customer obsessed and the most customer obsessed companies really winning, and that the market's showing that time and time again in recent years, ICP from an operational perspective really serves as your company's North Star, right? So you need to have everyone in your organization aligned on and an agreement on who your ideal customer profile is, so that you're all essentially working effectively and efficiently together.
Yeah, love it. Totally makes sense. You can't be customer obsessed without knowing and having a clear vision of who that customer is, right? I can tell you that probably the last 6 to 9 months, Mailshake has done lots of efforts to really get the whole company around ICPs. It started with the sales team defining it. And now when we get product feedback, when the dev team is building something or even like looking at something, the devs are even saying like, I don't think this helps our ICP, right? And so it's like everybody's in alignment of like who we're selling to. So hopefully we didn't get it wrong. And I want to talk about that for a second. So like, when you're defining an ICP, like what are the details? Like what are like all the elements you should be looking at? Because I feel like it's so easy to say, yeah, like my ICP is salespeople. Like, that doesn't sound like enough detail.
Yeah, so that's a great point of clarification. When you think about ICP, so like what is the definition of ICP? There are a few different ways to look at it. Number one, when you say ICP, technically, the definition of an ideal customer profile is a company level definition. It is not persona specific or use case specific, or the messaging and sequence that you'll use to acquire companies in that space as customers. Those things matter a lot, and an ICP is kind of worthless without those details. But those are the next steps. This is the 101 level course. 100 level course is defining the ideal customer profile at a company level, and then from there you have to build on top of that. So when you say ideal customer profile, or when I say that, really what I'm talking about is a qualitative and quantitative understanding of who your customers are at a company level. So primarily demographic attributes, things like, what location, what geographies are the best customers for us or companies to target. What company size should we target? You can do this by dollars or a number of employees. You can consider things like technological maturity levels. These are a little bit harder to kind of ascertain than just a LinkedIn search of like companies between this size and this size in these locations. But you can still do this. There's a lot of useful tools out there, like BuiltWith, for example, does a great job of figuring out what technologies are installed on businesses' websites, and then you can start to kind of make some assessments or use those lists as proxies to determine, okay, well, these companies have some of the most cutting edge technologies installed on their websites. Therefore, their level of technological maturity or savviness is higher and more likely or less likely to buy our product, depending on what we're offering. So these things are oftentimes kind of the first, when I'm working with my clients, these are the first things we really look at because they're relatively easy and highly effective in terms of figuring out, mapping what your ideal customer profile should look like. Some more advanced ways to really take your ideal customer profile definitions to the next level is to start to use what's called like the social graph, and basically build predictive models off of, Facebook has done this really well. It's like if Sujan and I both know, these same 10 people, then we're likely to know these other 10 people as well, depending on our friend groups and connections. The same works with technology, and some companies like Demandbase, for example, use AI to help their clients figure out their ideal customer profiles based on who they've already sold to specifically. So that's the demographic attributes side of things. In addition to demographic attributes, you can also use behavioral attributes or intent attributes to define ideal customer profile. So things like, how many times a prospect has visited your website in the last month, what conferences or events are people or companies attending or sponsoring. Has a company, whether or not a company has entered into a sales cycle with a competitor or recently churned off of a competitor of yours. These are all strong behavioral signals that you can also use to define a list of ideal customers to go after.
Cool, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's very helpful. I even like the fact that you can use something like Demandbase to further identify them through AI and kind of based off who you've sold to. That's awesome. So I guess, like, when should a company start defining an ICP? I feel like, is it too early? Is it too late? When's the right time?
So I always tell people as early as possible. If you haven't done it yet and you are making money, it's already late. This is important because really what ICP is it's an exercise in focus. There's the proverb, the dog that chases two rabbits catches none. I throw that out every once in a while when I'm talking to folks. Just like, it's easy to be distracted. We live in an age where there's no shortage of options. So you find people are just kind of going in completely different directions. So you're not going to get ICP perfect ever, no matter how sophisticated your data science teams are helping you figure out who to go after, how many customers you have, and how precise and accurate your models are. You're never going to get ICP perfect. This is an exercise in focus. Ruthless focus. We're not going to go after these guys because we're going after these guys. And you iterate over time. So for early stage companies, companies that maybe don't have any customers or have very few customers, it is hard to build a lookalike model of ICP because you don't really know what you should be going after. So what I say here is, this is where a lot of hypothesis forming and kind of human interpretation has to happen. And you make your best guess. You take a look at, all right, so if we're Milkshake and we have competitors in our space, who are some customers that our competitors are touting as kind of marquee customers. We talk to those companies, and this is not a sales pitch. This is market research. You try to understand, what the use case is, who the people who are buying these products are, what their satisfaction level is with those products, what their problems with those products are, what they're trying to accomplish day to day, and kind of zooming out away from the product and just focusing on like, what are they trying to do and how can we build something that is better serving, would serve them better when we get there. And then you start to, you have dozens and dozens and dozens or hundreds of these conversations, and you start to kind of figure out some patterns. And then as a team, you synthesize the data, you scrub it, you brainstorm, you figure out, all right, what is our product actually going to be? Or what are we going to prioritize in our product roadmap for the coming year in order to effectively serve this segment of the market? Because this is the ideal customer profile that we want to target at first. So you start to do that. And again, I would say it's kind of like the Fibonacci sequence, like with respect to like how often you define your ICP or redefine your ICP. Early on, you want to define it more often, more frequently, because you're learning and shit's changing, and that's fine. You should update the model. And then later on, as you get more confidence and okay, we know, ed tech sector, 1,000 to 5,000 employees, Pacific Northwest, West Coast, whatever it is, that's our sweet spot. You feel more confident. You could probably do it just maybe like once a year or so, kind of redefine your ICP.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I like the fact that you're starting with qualitative information, talking to customers, hearing about it. You're then scrubbing through it, brainstorming. You've got a kind of a broad, like, get all the data you can, talk to human beings. Right. And then you're like, okay, well, like a lot of what they said doesn't make any sense, or like this doesn't apply or whatever. And you kind of get into this, and then you redefine, then you have a strategy for the 6 months, a year, or 2 years, whatever. And then you keep redefining it and evolving it, right? I find that that's really awesome, because I think having that direction, that focus, I love how you're like, don't do anything else. Go after that people, and like you have to like stop doing the other stuff, because that could help you build the wrong product, or it could help you build like a product that your ICP doesn't want. And if you're saying, right, hey, the total addressable market has, these 5,000, they have 50,000 ICPs we can get to, whatever dollars. You can get X percent of the market, you can get X dollars. And now you're based off of ICPs, and now you're building stuff for not that market, then you're not really following your plan or the thing. You're following something, but not really the direction. And what I like about this is, even if you're wrong, you can adjust. But you can adjust. If you have to, right? If you're wrong, you'll adjust faster, right? But if you're going after everything, you'll never know when to adjust.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Actually, one of the I think bigger misconceptions with respect to defining ICP, being focused, is that if you get it wrong, you're somehow in trouble. I would say the vast majority of times, the reason companies struggle to acquire customers isn't because they've defined the wrong ICP. It's because they just don't know where they're going, or it's kind of just like super watered down. They don't have a clear direction. So just do it. Take that leap of faith. It'll pay off, I promise. And again, you'll refine it and tweak it over time.
Love it. So we talked about ICPs, how to define it, what to do. Now I want to get, like, my last question really is around, like, how do we go from ICPs to where like sales marketing can actually write copy for this? How can we get this to where people can use this on a day-to-day level?
Yeah, that's
or is that how it works? Is Is that not how it works?
So again, a matter of going back to definitions. So ICP on its own is just a company level, like, hey, here's the target list. It's tiered. Here's my A's, my B's, my C's. Here's my beachhead market segment that we're going to go after first. And then after we get those guys, here are the guys. So it's at a company level, but on its own, it's not super prescriptive. In order for ICP to be prescriptive, you need persona, kind of a persona taxonomy is what I refer to it as. Use case ideas, like idea of like what the current way of doing things is, what the problem with that use case is, limitations, and then kind of like, all right, layer in the need. This is how we help. So you need that messaging. You need also to understand not only the messaging, but what the medium you're going to use to communicate with these folks. Is this in person? Is this direct mail? Is this enterprise sales motion where you're getting in front of these folks and waiting for RFPs? Or is this more of an inside model where you're, you know, sending out a bunch of emails and trying to acquire customers that way? You got to consider all these things. But you know, the companies that I've seen do this best really take it seriously. And you know, one company in particular that I've worked with, you know, they actually have like their 5 personas, like cutouts, like superhero cutouts, like all over the office, and everyone sees this, right? The engineers know there's this user, this user, here are the attributes, here's what they care about, here's what they're trying to do, and here's how we help them. So it's like, you know, the spirit of this should be kind of alive and well in the organization, and then actually like to make it useful from like a day-to-day perspective for your sales reps and for your marketing teams. You know, again, let's not let the impossible perfect become the enemy of the possible good. I've seen a lot of companies flail and struggle to try to put this all into their CRM and make it perfect. It doesn't have to be. I mean, the most effective ways I've seen it used is like get a Google sheet in there, you know, industry, operating model, company names that are customers, case study links if they have them, or if not, just blurbs about like what they were doing before, how we've helped them. And then, you know, when I'm you know, on this SDR and I'm making cold calls and I'm calling someone in the e-commerce, I'm calling Allbirds, you know, and I want to pitch them on how great my product is and why I can help them. I pull up e-commerce, I pull up operating model, online retail, or marketplace or whatever it is, and then I pull up, you know, a few different examples of ways we've helped companies, and I can just kind of blurt out, hey, this is who I am, this is what we do, this is how I help people like you.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love that. That's great. I love how like you're also talking about you don't have to have everything perfect, right? Because I think that's what people try to get to, and okay, then I can launch. I think a lot of I'm just reminded of like flashbacks of my folks on the team at Mailshake were like, I don't think I have enough detail to take any action on this. I'm like, you don't need to take action right now. You're just a part of the brainstorm. Like this is the ICP, like you said. It's not the persona of the exact buyer. There's still more work to be done, which is another layer underneath that. But just getting everybody on a management level aligned this is really, really important. So Ash, thank you very much for joining. Very, very helpful. If you haven't already done it, listeners or viewers, go figure out and define your ICP. Like that spreadsheet, the format is perfect, right? You've got can you repeat that part? You said the ICP and then.
Yeah, a vertical of your customers, the operating model, that's worth mentioning, the title of the users, and then kind of the story, the case study, right? Like here's what they were doing, here's what we did to help, here's the impact we had on their top line or bottom line.
I guarantee if you give that to your sales team, they'll
love you.
They're done. They don't need to ask any more questions, right? Like,
that's right.
Oh, I've got a customer in this like retail space. Oh yeah, here's a case study. Here's a couple customers we've got. Boom. Like you're gonna so much time and efficiency as well. So Ash, again, thank you again. This has been very helpful. Where can people go to learn more or find out, read more?
Yeah, you can check me out on LinkedIn, Ash Alhashim, and you can also check out my website, the BFG Consulting website, brownflag.io. there's a bunch of content there as well. Check it out.
Awesome. Thanks, Ash.